So I do have a game here that says what the hell is a good character design? So they get it. So this video kind of popped up on my feed or so, and I'm kind of curious to see what's it about. Of course, it's by Basic. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so sorry about that. So, but as I said, their channels are always down in the description down below. So every single time, if it, for people who always keep asking me where's the source and everything, it's literally in the link in the description down below. These people don't understand at the end of the day. So I'm curious to see what this
What
video is
makes
about.
good character design?
If the person can cosplay them and they like the character, then yeah. Relatability maybe for some sort of nature, or they think they're really cool or something. There's many
Now, I
reasons.
really want you to think about that question because I have, and after giving it much thought, I can confidently say I still have no idea. Of course, I'm being hyperbolic, but there's a bit of truth to that as well. You see, one of the things I mentioned in my Deadlock video, which you should check out if you haven't already, was how well designed the characters in the game are. But that also got me thinking,
Damn, they added a bunch of more characters in Deadlock. Can I see real quick? Damn, that's a lot of characters, to be honest. Holy cow. I only remember some of these characters because they had a small roster at the very beginning. Wow, they added so many characters. Jesus.
why? Why are these characters seen by so many as well designed and fleshed out, while some other games that we'll talk about later simply aren't? Especially when you
Well,
consider.
to be honest, when it came to High Guard specifically, because I saw a video or so where an actual art designer or so actually talked about it specifically. Where some of these are really cool, and I get some of the concept in general, but then it falls flatter. So when you just give them an AK-37 or so, or a fucking regular gun or so, that makes no sense when they're supposed to be this mystical kind of type of thing. What is it? Kai or so from High Guard, where he's this ice demon kind of type of thing that he transforms and whatnot, but then it kind of falls apart or so when where you give the dude a freaking gun or so, and it's just kind of yeah, it's just kind of gotta play Deadlock again. They even changed the look of some characters. Oh, they did. Oh, interesting.
That some of these character designs aren't even finished. So that's what I
wouldn't
want
mind
to try
trying
my
this
best
MOBA
to
at the end of
explore
the day.
in this video.
This seems like a
If
pretty
you
fun
find
MOBA to
yourself
play.
enjoying the video, definitely make sure you subscribe. I feel weird doing the whole YouTuber thing, but a vast majority of you are not subscribed. And believe me, I appreciate all the support I've been getting on the videos, truly. But if you want to see more videos like this or the previous ones, the best way to do that is subscribing. Now, before we get into it, remember, art is inherently subjective. There will always be someone that disagrees or thinks that a character you like is boring or whatever. That's
True.
fine, but there's clearly a general consensus on what works and what doesn't. So let's try to find out why.
Chapter 1, setting the stage.
While Deadlock is certainly the game that pushed me towards making this video, it isn't the end-all be-all. There are countless examples of games doing character design right, and while I could talk about
Persona,
a multitude of
Withering
games from
Waves,
Final Fantasy, Expedition 33, or the
33.
Persona series, I want to stick mainly to the hero shooter genre.
Yeah.
Reason number one is that this video would end up being hours long,
Of course.
but number two, the designs of these characters within this genre is critically important. Valve specifically are obviously no strangers to this. Look all the way back to Team Fortress 2. They had a very clear set of rules that they followed when it came to making characters. Valve adopted functional character design when it came to designing the roster. Perhaps the most interesting thing I learned from researching this was the strong emphasis on class readability through character silhouettes. It's one of those things that once you see, you can't really unsee, if that makes sense. Many people might already know this, but regardless, it's still a fun thing to look at. For example, the Heavy. They have this massive body with wide shoulders and a giant minigun, compared to the Sniper, who's tall but has a slender frame with a long rifle and big scope. You could play this little game with all 9 of the characters, but what's more interesting is seeing how this philosophy impacted other games. Remember, TF2 is 18 years old, but we still see this being implemented in games today. Look no further than Overwatch.
Yeah, of
now,
course.
whether you love, hate, or love to hate Overwatch, there's no denying that its character design is top tier, especially when it released back in 20.
Well, do you really think AAA games have be able to understand the differentiality? Even Call of Duty has the same problem too as well.
2016. These same principles of identifying characters through silhouettes still apply here. Just compare Tracer, who has a small, nimble frame holding 2 weapons, to Winston, who is massive in contrast. The way these characters look also feeds into their playstyles. Tracer wants to get in, do tons of damage, and get out fast, and her design supports that idea.
Like I said specifically, right? When I make my when I get my own studio and everything like that, far off into the future, right? One of the projects that I would love to do or so, but it'll be probably later down the line. It wouldn't probably probably be the first one that I would do or so. Would be like an FPS game, but like have being able to go into the what is it? The steampunk era with the Tesla coils and everything like that, you know? Have the guns be inspired from that and have some very like charming characters at the end of the day. Something like that in that sort of nature, you know?
Futuristic pilot look alongside goggles, a tight bodysuit, and a bomber jacket. This type of character design is very intuitive, and it allows players, even if they are completely unfamiliar with the game, to learn quickly. Second, because it's so intuitive, it also doesn't feel like learning. There are many other examples of this, of course. The first one that jumps out to me, at least, is Apex Legends. Having put many hours into Apex in the past, I can confidently say that Respawn also nailed this aspect of their character designs. Also, Valorant probably fits into this as well, but I don't have any experience with it personally, so I don't really want to talk about it. Now, with TF2, Valve made it very clear that they did this because a character's unique silhouette was by far the best way to identify them, more so than any visual detail on the model. This applies to spotting a character from a long distance, or even in different lighting situations. If the character silhouette was unique enough, players would have a much easier time assessing the situation and also just learning the game. I think that's a point that many developers are kind of missing nowadays. Having characters that are easily readable plays such a massive role in the enjoyment of a game. Even if a character's visual look isn't bad, if the design conveys nothing about their gameplay, or worse, subverts players' expectations, that's when we get a real mess on our hands.
Chapter 2, Expectations.
I just mentioned player expectations, and I want to elaborate a bit more as to what I mean by that. When you first look at a character in any one of these games, subconsciously you have an expectation for what they might do gameplay-wise. Again, using Tracer as the example, at first glance you probably expect a fast, low health pool character who isn't exactly a frontlining hero. But what if that same character, that same design, played like Reinhardt? Or, in Deadlock's case, you wouldn't expect a character that looks like Mina to play like Abrams. Now, while these are obviously extreme examples, we've kind of seen developers make similar mistakes as recently as a couple of months ago. Not to keep beating a dead horse, literally, but Highguard's characters are just very okay. The biggest problem though is that many of them commit this sin of subverting expectations. Like this character, Kai, who has a pretty small frame when compared to the other characters. Would it surprise you if I said he's actually a defensive hero? A little note here, turns out Kai actually turns into this big thing with his ultimate, demon. But I feel like my point still stands. Or look at Atticus, who's been the character shown off the most in the marketing. At first glance, to me, they don't really convey anything. He just comes off as generic Soldier 1. And that's really the biggest problem with a game like Highguard. Despite also throwing player expectations all out of whack, the design themselves, while not looking bad,
like this guy's supposed to be like kind of like a panther type of thing or so, right? Or some kind of specific cat or something, you know? But it's just kind of like the character design doesn't really give off that unless you're seeing his abilities overall. Besides like his like mawing of his like two little like weird, you know, his weird helmet thing that he has.
Me, they don't do a good job of setting expectations. Now, Concord, on the other hand, is a whole other can of worms. This really failed on both ends, where its character design, in my opinion, was not the best, and it also failed pretty hard at doing its job. Now, these, of course, are kind of the worst case scenario where character silhouettes on top of visual design just do not get the job done, but looking at a game that does meet player expectations, at least in my opinion, is, of course, Deadlock. A character that looks like Hayes isn't going to be a frontliner, and you're not exactly expecting Lash to be your support. On top of that, character silhouettes in Deadlock are extremely identifiable on top of being unique. You aren't going to mistake Billy or Celeste for any other character in the game. And you can actually say this about a lot of the roster. Like Mina, for example, she has a giant umbrella that is very recognizable. Or Abrams, who has this massive frame with a massive gun. Or Paige, who walks around carrying a giant book. Like with TF2
cool
18
designs,
years ago, you can go down the list and do this with all of the playable characters. With character silhouettes
they all
and
got like
expectations,
they also have like their own personality too with the characters, how they do. You saw like, you know, the girl with the book throws like fucking words at you and everything like that. The girl with the unicorn horn has her little wand and everything. And then you have fucking that one dude or so like clawing at people. That's really cool and unique to see. Like they all have unique characteristics of how they actually like attack one another or so. That's actually pretty neat. I might actually keep that in mind actually.
Out of the way, I kind of just want to talk about Deadlock. After all, it is the reason I wanted to make this video, and I truly believe that Valve has taken this design philosophy and given it its next evolution with Deadlock.
Because it just feels like they all have personality. Chapter
One of
3
the best things
Deadlock.
about Deadlock's character designs is just how much is conveyed about a character through their looks as well as animations. For example, Graves, she very clearly has this punk rock angsty teen thing going on,
Yeah.
which is very reflective of her actual character, not to mention her weapon, which is a literal severed hand hinting at her necromancy abilities. The most obvious of all is in the name, of course. Graves, kinda on the nose, but it gets the job done. You get the idea of what she does with one look at her. Now, of course, this doesn't tell you the full story, that can only be done through playing the game, but going back to my earlier point, it gives you a basic understanding of what to expect. Another pretty good example of this is Infernus, another
Yes.
character whose name implies a lot. Yeah, his whole kit pretty much relies on setting people on fire, but on top of that, there's more things on his model that tell you more about his kit, but also just who he is. We see lots of shot glasses, mixers, as well as a towel draped across his shoulder, things
He's a
very
bartender.
reminiscent of a bartender. Pretty much every character in Deadlock has these little features that not only make them unique, but also tells the player more about them. While how a character looks is certainly important for the multitude of reasons we already went over, it's really only one part of the equation. Now, it is typically the first part of said equation, so nailing it is important to pique people's interest, but once they get their foot in the door, they need something else to latch onto. This is where Deadlock's superb writing comes into play. Having characters that feel real and not like AI on a screen spitting lines at you is crucial in my opinion, and Valve have really nailed it with Deadlock. I mentioned it in a previous video, but every single character in this game feels human, even when some of them aren't. For those that don't know, every character in Deadlock has a small bio on them. These range from pretty substantial entries to the not so substantial, but even the ones that may
Jacob's
only be a
last is
sentence
just
long
an
still do a
asshole.
very good job of painting a picture of who that character is.
You were looking to summon a god, right? Well, here I am.
Get straight to the point, to be frankly honest, for his backstory. He's just an asshole.
This is also a good time to bring up the great voice work in this game. As I said before, the writing for these characters is top tier, but alongside that, the voice actors given to each one also do such a great job of making everything feel believable. Each character interacts with each other how you would expect them to. These voice lines typically happen at the very start of a match when you're making your way to your lane, and of course will vary greatly depending on who you're playing and who your lane mate is. Perhaps my favorite thing about these interactions, aside from how real they sound, is that the characters don't always have much to say. Of course, some characters like Pocket and Dynamo, who do know each other on a personal level, will talk a good bit, giving us an even further look into their characters.
You should have told me you were alive, Aaron.
Why's that?
I'm your godfather. I would have helped you.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure who I could trust.
Well, at least I'm here now.
But other characters who
It just means to just have some personality. I think they just like put so much love and thought into the actual character, how they fit into this world in general, compared to like, compared to High Guard in general, because it just doesn't really feel like it. They don't really talk to each other. Well, they kind of do actually, but one of the weird lines or so is the blonde dude or so like trying to hit on Kai, and basically the weird guy that looks like Ken or so from Street Fighter literally was trying to hit on Kai, even though Kai is supposed to be a guy or so, and it just felt kind of off. It felt kind of weird or so. Don't get me wrong, it's fine, if you have a gay character or something like that, but it just felt weird in general, especially because like this guy's supposed to be a playboy. He's supposed to be pulling in the ladies, right? But he's not pulling in bitches, he's pulling in guys or so. So I'm just kind of a little bit weirded out, just a little bit. So
don't know each other will often keep things very brief.
it was just
Why
so
are you
awkward.
here?
It's a boring answer.
Okay, I don't care then.
I really like this detail because, again, it feels genuine. They don't force every single character to know each other
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that isn't very plausible, which results in very genuine and very human-sounding conversations. Some of my favorite voice lines actually come from interactions with Infernus. Being a bartender in the city, he knows a vast majority of the roster, and in turn, they know him, which is contrasted greatly by some of the other members of the roster. But again, this kind of makes sense, right? He doesn't know them because the developers want you to like him, so
It's
he
'cause of
can
his
talk to
job
everyone.
profession.
No, there's an in-universe reason for it, and it makes sense. Characters even have some unique voice lines when pinging an enemy on the other team. These seem to only be reserved so far for the earlier characters. I would assume they just had more time to record lines, but I
Yeah,
would
of
love
course.
to see this little detail added to more characters in the future, because again, it just makes every interaction feel real.
There's the detective.
There are tons of more amazing voice lines that you'll hear organically as you play the game, but if you want to listen to a bunch of them, this person I found on YouTube uploads tons of character interactions, so check those out if you want to hear more. Now, why does any of this matter? And does any of this
Yes,
matter?
it does.
If the gameplay is good and fun, does it matter that characters interact with each other in a believable way? Does it matter that a character's
Personality.
design conveys much about their kits? Well, for that second part, I feel like we've established that design influences gameplay quite a bit, so I would confidently say yes. As for interactions, backstory, voice lines. I don't really know. Would I be enjoying Deadlock as much as I am now if characters didn't come off as normal people? Or if they didn't talk with each other in such a believable way? I don't really have an answer, but I'm curious to see what you guys think in the comments below. That pretty much does it for this video.
There's some
Certainly a
people who
much
don't
different
care,
video
of
from my
course.
previous two, which were very information based, but I wanted to try something different, and character design is something that I've really been thinking about a lot recently and just wanted to pretty much put my thoughts out there. So if you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, all that stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.
That's a cool video, to be honest. Honestly, that was a really good video. I like that, actually. That was a good video. Fucking... Yeah, I have no problem with that specifically. Like, yeah, overall, like, it just kind of... there's, like, so many reasons why some people just enjoy, you know, some of the character, about good character design overall, you know? There's multitude of reasons why, you know, so either they think the character is hot, or they think, you know, I like the character design of this one looks cool, you know? Or they do the little nuances. They check the little nuances in general, like Mr. Dark over here, who likes the lore, you know, in Wuhan. Kind of funny or so. Yeah, but we were talking about how, like, Luke in general, like his design wise specifically, when you look at it, when you look at the little details and nuances of the character itself, and what, like, the symbolism of what it represents on their outfit and overall, it's pretty cool to look at it at the end of the day. So that's why, you know, you just got to make good character designs. And when you look at the character designs, at least for High Guard in general, it kind of doesn't really convey much. Besides, I think maybe one of the characters looks pretty cool. It's one of the newer ones, at least. But, like, it's still, like, at the end of the day, it still kind of, like, falls flat, because you bring them into, like, this weird world at the end of the day with, like, normal AK guns, a freaking revolver, a sniper rifle, and you just bring modern guns into this, like, weird high fantasy looking setting, and it's just kind of like, it just doesn't fit, you know? Like, if they use, like, actual, like, spiritual, like, weapon designs, you know, where, like, either, like, a weapon throws earth damage or water damage or whatever the fuck, you know? Or, like, it infuses with their kit or something like that, you know? That'd be a different story, you know? Be like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, but at the end of the day, it just felt kind of lazy or so, where they just kind of, like, brought, like, assets or so from the Unreal Engine with these guns and just called it a day, basically. So, but yeah, overall, not a bad video, to be honest. I